dapat may response natin na nagfa-file tayo ng lagi ng note verbal, basically protest. Enough na ba yon to actually somehow play this long game that China is basically playing, or we should do more?
Well, first of all, we have to file a protest at the minimum. Kasi if you do not file the protest, ibig sabihin yan, you are consenting, impliedly consenting to what China is doing. So under international law, we have to file a protest to preserve our right. Kasi there is a doctrine in international law na pag your rights or sovereignty is being infringed and you do nothing, it is as if you have acquiesced. That's the doctrine of acquiescence. So basic yan, we have to protest. We cannot fail to protest because in fact, that was raised sa arbitration at The Hague. Sabi ng China, wala naman kayong protesta eh. Hindi, pinalabas natin lahat ng mga note verbals natin protesting the actions of China. And we were upheld there that we did not consent to what China was doing because we protested. Now, is that enough? It's not enough. We have to assert our rights. Like, for example, we have to go there and get the gas. Ang ginagawa ni Duterte, hihingi muna ng permission sa China to get the gas. China does not own the gas. Why do we have to get the permission of China? Malaysia did not get the permission of China. Indonesia did not get the permission of China. They just went there and surveyed and drilled. Pag siyempre, tanongin mo sa China, pwede ba? Of course, China will say no.
Oo nga, no? Tayo pa nagpapaalam, no? Sarili nating bakuran. Pwede po ba namin pakinabangan yung tanim namin sa aming sariling bakuran?
Atin yun, sabi ng tribunal. Sa inyo yan eh. Eh bakit pa tayo magpapaalam?
Ito sir, yung next na tanong ko, no? Kasi medyo hindi naman nakakagulat, pero medyo nakakainis talaga itong statement from China. Lalo sinabi nila, humanitarian para yung approach na ginawa ng China Coast Guard vessel doon sa Philippine Coast Guard vessel dahil binomba lang ng water cannon. Tapos yung parang mas malaking punto rito, pinagbibintangan nila yung Philippine vessel na hindi naman daw papunta lang sa Ayungin para mag-resupply ng ating mga tropa doon sa BRP Sierra Madre, kundi para kumpunihin o reinforce o palakasin yung ating barko na technically kahit bulok ay in active service pa rin.
Well, under the arbitral award, sabi ng arbitral tribunal, the Philippines has the exclusive right to exploit the natural resources. Lahat ng gas, fish, oil sa Ayungin Shoal sa atin yan. Tsaka secondly, because that's in our exclusive economic zone, we have the exclusive right to erect a structure. Pwede tayo maglagay ng lighthouse or a barracks there for our soldiers kasi that's part of the right of a coastal state. So we have a right to send our ship there. Hindi pwede hintuin ng China. Eh sino ba ang China? They're not the coastal state that has jurisdiction. Wala silang EEZ eh.
Okay. So yun yung reality by law. Kaso yung reality naman po dun sa mismong karagatan, eh mahirap talaga na gawin yung resupply mission, more so yung pagkumpuni ng ating BRP Sierra Madre dahil nakabantay yung China Coast Guard. So ano po yung pwede natin gawin para mas ma-address natin itong problemang ito?
Ang gagawin dapat natin, we have to send bigger Coast Guard vessels and have joint patrols with the US when we go there to resupply the BRP Sierra Madre. Ganyan ang formula ngayon eh. That's how Malaysia did it. That's how Indonesia did it. So, we have to exercise our right, assert our right. We'll send our ship there together with our Navy or Coast Guard, and at the same time magkaka-joint patrol tayo sa US in that area. Walang magagawa ang China. That's exactly what happened in Malaysia and Indonesia. Pero pag during the time of Duterte, sabi niya, I love President Xi Jinping. So walang nangyari sa atin. Now we have a new president and the new president is saying the right things. So the acid test is, will he send the survey ship to Reed Bank? Because yun ang pinaka-importante to get the gas in Reed Bank because Malampaya is running out of gas. And if we don't get the gas in Reed Bank, we will be importing LNG. Napakamahal yan. Our power rates will go up by 50%. Magsasara yung mga kumpanya, yung mga opisina. we'll have daily brownouts of 12 to 14 hours a day. So that's why we have really to get the gas and read bank. Yun ang acid test eh.
Okay. So napakalinaw no, yung acid test, no? Pero ito nga, gusto kong balikan yung sinasabi ng China na matinding gaslighting. Kasalanan ng Pilipinas, kasalanan ng Coast Guard vessel natin dahil papunta tayo ron sa ano, sa Ayungin Shoal. Pero nga, ang point dito, hindi ba parang ano, ang una ko pa naisip dito sa statement na to, yung the temerity of the Chinese government to say all these things. Sila nga yung nagtayo ng artificial islands, nag-reclaim doon sa South China Sea at pati yung West Philippine Sea na ano, kumbaga nadamay, di ba? Nagtayo ng structure sa sarili nating bakuran. I mean, I know this is better answered by the Chinese government, pero sa tingin nyo, saan nanggagaling yung temerity na yun?
Well, because they have the might. Because China is trying to change international law. Kasi under international law, right is might. Under the 1945 UN Charter, no? Kasi before the UN Charter, before 1945, war or threat of force or use of force were legitimate means of annexing territory. So before the 1945 UN Charter, you want to get the territory of your neighbor, you go to war. If you win, sa iyo na yan. But in 1945, to end all of these wars, world wars, we adopted the UN Charter, and under the UN Charter, use of force or threat of force has been outlawed. You cannot use that to settle territorial or maritime disputes. Now, China is a member of the UN. It has subscribed to that. But on the ground, in the water, China is subverting that, overturning that. China is using force to settle dispute. That is contrary to UNCLOS and to the UN Charter. Kaya nga sabi ko, we have to bring this to the UN General Assembly. Because in the UN General Assembly, the issue there is, can a state use force to settle a dispute? Of course they cannot, because that's expressly prohibited under the UN Charter. Ganyan nangyari sa Ukraine eh. Russia used force, invaded Ukraine and annexed the territory of Ukraine. Ang ginawa ng Ukraine, dinala sa General Assembly, hindi sa Security Council kasi may veto power ang China. Dinala sa UN General Assembly, and overwhelmingly, the General Assembly voted to condemn Russia.
Okay.
Because hindi mo i-condemn, babagsak ang UN Charter. The UN Charter will become a useless piece of paper. The UN will collapse. It really existence of the United Nations, itong ginagawa ng China, and what Russia is doing in Ukraine.
Okay. Pero kayo po, ano yung realistically nakikita nyo magiging response ng General Assembly in case we bring this case before the UN General Assembly?
Well, we have to prepare. Hindi pwede pag sinampa natin and tomorrow we ask for a voting, mali yan. You don't do that. You have to lobby. Sabi ng EU, we support you. Okay, help us get the votes. Sabi ng US, Canada, we support you. Okay, help us get the votes. Sabi ng Australia, Japan, and even India now. Because they don't want the legal order to be overturned by China and by Russia. That's why they're fighting. They're helping Ukraine because the issue there is, can a country annex the territory of another country by force, by invasion, despite the UN Charter? They want to put an end to that. And the same thing is happening in the South China Sea. Can China annex the maritime zones and the island territories of the Philippines by intimidation, by gray zone tactics? That's also against the UN Charter. That's threat of force. So the entire existence, the existence of the UN is at stake here. That's why I believe the EU and the developed countries will support us, and they're actually supporting us. So we have to gather the votes first. Once we have a clear majority, isampa natin yung resolution for voting. Hindi lang I mean, this is hard work. We have to work here.
Okay. So, pero sa tingin nyo ba susunod ang China sakaling let's say we get an overwhelming support from the General Assembly? Kasi ngayon malinaw naman na yung international law, yung UNCLOS talaga nasa side natin, may decision yung Permanent Court of Arbitration, ang daming condemnation, palawak ng palawak, especially under this administration coming from other countries. Para mas nagiging brazen yung China. You think yung General Assembly support to the Philippine cause that could finally keep China at bay?
Katulad ng Russia, despite the strong condemnation, patuloy pa yung Russia. China will do the same, but then Russia is being isolated now. Russia is being sanctioned by the EU, by other countries. Ganyan rin mangyari sa China. China will not follow because they are nuclear armed, they have nuclear weapons. But then the world will say, we cannot allow you to do this because our own exclusive economic zone will also be endangered if a more powerful neighbor of ours will follow you. Paano na kami? So everybody will understand that we cannot allow a country like Russia or China to be an exception to the rule. We cannot allow them because they are nuclear powers. They can just grab the territory of their neighbors. Pag ginawa mo yan, wala nang katapusan yan. That's the reason all the members of the EU are really supporting Ukraine because that is the principle there. Pag pinayagan nila yan, if they allow Russia to do that, walang katapusan yan. Russia will go to Lithuania, to the smaller countries in the Baltic states, no? Ganyan din ang gagawin ng China. Pag nakuha nila ng China yung ating maritime zone, kawawa na yung sunod na yung Brunei, susunod na rin Vietnam and Malaysia. So we have to stand our ground here and get the support of the world.
Ito sir, may tanong po sa inyo, no? I think marami rin nag-iisip nito no? Why is China so aggressive in bullying the Philippines despite the fact that we have a mutual defense treaty with the United States? At lately, no, mas malinaw yung pagkakasabi ng ng Amerika. Pag inatake niyo yung vessel, basically referring to BRP, that would activate the 1951 Mutual Defense Treaty. Pero baka sa tingin niyo, despite this, aggressive pa rin sa bullying yung China?
Because China is pushing the envelope to the limit, no? They will not fire a shot at BRP Sierra Madre because that will give the US an excuse to intervene. So what they will do is just keep on intimidating us. Pag nagpatakot tayo, talo tayo. So we have to fight back. Because if we fight back just like the Malaysians, Indonesians, walang magagawa ang China. Tayo, we have a president before who said, wala tayong laban sa China. So talo agad tayo. Pag sinabi mo yon, talo ka na. So we have to push back. And China will not fire a single shot on BRP Sierra Madre because alam nila that means the US will intervene, and the last thing they want is for the US to intervene.
Ito sir nga pala, you mentioned the former president, no? I think it's pretty obvious to a lot of people na iba yung diskarte ng former president when it came to China at yung diskarte ngayon yung pronouncements coming from President Marcos regarding China. Pero recently, nakita natin si former President Duterte nagkaroon ng isang meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping at mukhang hindi alam na Malacanang beforehand, although ang claim nila, in-inform naman daw sila. I mean, anong basa nyo rito? Parang, yabe former president, wala namang masama kung makipag-meet kay Xi Jinping, pero yung timing and then yung circumstances and context, what do you say to it?
Well, of course, President Duterte is cooperating with China to undermine the Philippine position. Klaro yan eh. Biro mo, sasabihin niya kay President Xi, please be kind to my country. Pag ginanyan mo, talo ka na. If you are begging, talo ka na. China does not respect those who ask for mercy. You have to show China that you are willing to defend your territory and maritime zones. And if you have an ally like the US who will help you, you have to show it.
Pero hindi po ba nakakaapekto doon sa China policy ng Marcos Jr. administration, or siguro to be more blunt about it, nakakagulo or nakakadiskaril?
So with the any administration, the Marcos administration wants friendly relations with China. But how can you take that? How can you have friendly relations with a country that is invading you? That is seizing your maritime zones and island territories in the West Philippine Sea. Hindi naman pwede sabihin mo, kaibigan pa rin natin. Eh kinukuha na yung mga, your land is being taken away.
Well, maraming salamat po, Justice Antonio Carpio. Nakakalungkot yung pinag-uusapan natin, pero I really hope people in government, those who are actually in the position to make decisions, would listen to what people like you have been saying. Maraming salamat po, sir.
Yes, thank you, Christian. You know, Malaysia and Indonesia were able to do it. There's no reason why we should not be able to do it also. Maraming salamat.
Kung nagustuhan niyo po itong video na ito, paki-like at share na lang po para mas marami pang makakita at makapanood. Kung gusto niyo po makibalita, follow niyo na rin po ako sa aking mga social media accounts na nakasulat po sa screen. Pwede rin po kayo magpadala ng super thanks, super like, super chat at super sticker sa YouTube, saka Facebook stars po. Alam niyo po, malayo po mararating ito para makagawa pa po kami ng mas maraming video na makatutulong po sa pagpapakalat ng tamang impormasyon para sa bawat Pilipino. Kada like, subscribe, follow at share ay pagsuporta po sa tunay na independent journalism sa bansa. Maraming salamat po.